guys, so this is the second part of the two-part series of how I plan my trips. And if you guys haven't seen the first part, definitely go check that out. It'll be in the link in my bio, or you can just click my channel and it'll show up. In the last part, I basically showed how I decided how long my trip was going to be, how to get around once I was in that country, and how many places I wanted to visit in that country to make the trip worthwhile. And this part today is going to be how I book everything. So if you haven't seen the first part, definitely go check it out, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. So this now brings us into our next step, which is booking everything. So this is where it gets exciting because you're actually officially making the first step into this trip. Booking everything can be very, very tedious between trying to make sure that everything overlaps properly, to make sure that your flights are on time and you have enough time to get from this place to this place and that your nights don't overlap. Honestly, before I started booking everything, or booking all my own trips, I didn't realize how hard it is to make sure that you're doing all the right dates. Even just when you get distracted by another website, you come back and sometimes the dates are wrong, and we almost booked a few things wrong, and it's crazy. So I like to start by booking transportation, specifically your airplane tickets first, because with this, you want to kind of base your check-in times for hotels, your car rental pickups, everything based on what time your flights get in. Because I'm a flight attendant, we had already booked our flight from Toronto to Paris. So the first flight that we have to figure out is Milan. So we are flying from Paris into Milan, and we knew we were staying a night in Paris. I always use a website called Skyscanner for flights because it basically searches all airlines for different prices and compares them and gives you can filter it so that it's cheapest to most expensive, and basically you just put in how many people, your departure city, your arrival city, and then you can also filter like the specific times that you want to arrive or depart at. Usually when you do this, it can make it more expensive when you're more picky about the time that you want. Now for us, we were very flexible, but I always like to go for the earlier morning flights if possible, because then you're not wasting a full day of traveling around between airport time and flight time. So when you get an earlier morning flight, you arrive earlier, and that gives you a full day of travel still once you get there, so you're not wasting time. We managed to snag a super affordable flight with EasyJet from Paris to Milan. It arrived in at 8:30 a.m., which allowed us the entire day once we got there, which was amazing, especially since we were planning on driving to Como. For the flight from Rome to Paris, this one was a little bit harder because we did need a flight that arrived before 9 a.m. because our flight back to Toronto left at around noon, and we wanted to leave ourselves as much time as possible to get from that flight to our home flight. Now, some people don't like leaving time between their flights, but this, as a flight attendant, this is my biggest recommendation, is to always leave as much time between your flights as possible. Because while maybe sitting around the airport sucks, it is way worse to be running through the airport not knowing when you're going to make your flight, and you never know what kind of delays are going to happen. I have worked as a flight attendant for 2 years, and the amount of delays over just some of this crazy stuff that you would never expect to happen, it happens, and you don't want to have to miss your flight, so you're better off to be sitting in the airport than running through it. This ended up being the priciest flight because we were so picky about the time that we needed to arrive, but we managed to snag a flight with Air France, and it arrived at around 8 a.m., which left us tons of time between our two flights. After this, I like to book things like cars, trains, things like that. Still transportation you need, but it's stuff that you can base off of your flight times and arrivals. So we made our pickup time for the car 1 hour after we arrived in Milan because we wanted to give ourselves some time just in case there were any delays, and to get from the arrivals gate to the pickup counter. After calculating the amount of time that we would need to drive from Como to Bologna to Florence, we decided to make our drop-off time in Florence 9 p.m. Now our target arrival time was around 6:30 p.m., but we wanted to make sure to give extra time just in case anything happened. Just in case delays, for example, being stuck in the mountains, as my dad thought was going to happen. So I checked multiple websites for the car rentals, and I don't think any specific website is really cheap. Honestly, I find a lot of the time that car rentals can be a little bit of a ripoff, but you want to check every single website that you possibly can find. So like Kayak, Travelocity, everything, because the prices always vary and it depends. So I checked multiple websites for car rentals. The cheapest option I ended up finding was a Fiat for the 2 days, and it was on Travelocity.com. Now we were a little bit nervous that the Fiat wouldn't be big enough to fit all of our suitcases in the back. We did pack pretty light, but you never know. But it ended up being fine, so that's awesome. Next, I booked the train, which is pretty straightforward. You just go to the italiarail.com and you put your departure and arrival destination, and you can put times again if you want, but sometimes that does make it more expensive. So usually I leave the filter out unless I absolutely need a specific arrival or departure time, and I check out what is the cheapest option. I ended up finding a one-way ticket from Florence to Rome that departed at 11 a.m. and arrived at approximately 12:30, and it was basically perfect because we would still have the whole afternoon to sightsee, get settled into our place. This now brings us into the next step of this video, which is the most exciting part and the part that I love the most, which is the booking our places to stay. So my biggest advice when it comes to booking hotels, Airbnbs, etc. is to weigh in all options. So obviously price for a lot of people is a key factor, but you also want to weigh options like the location, the reviews, all things like that, because if you save money on a hotel that is super far outside of the city center, then you're gonna end up spending more money than you saved just trying to get into the city, and you're wasting time, which is never really worth it in my opinion. Like, I'd rather spend an extra $50 on a hotel room than waste 3 hours of my day every day just trying to get to the place that I want to go. Now, I do love my Airbnbs, and that is where I book the majority of my stays when I go on vacation, but I do like to weigh all of my options, so I like to look on websites like hotwire.com, Trivago, things like that, because sometimes you can get a really good deal on a nice hotel, and it's fun to stay in a fancy little hotel every once in a while. As far as location was concerned, we needed to stay close to the airport because we had an early morning flight that was leaving to Milan the next morning, so we wanted to be as close to the airport as possible. One of the things I made sure to check for when booking this was that there was an airport shuttle. So the majority of hotels close to the airport have a complimentary airport shuttle that picks you up at a location in the airport and drops you off at the hotel, and it usually goes every 10 minutes to half an hour, which to me is a very important thing because I'd rather have something like that than waste my money on a taxi, and it just makes it a little bit easier to get around. So we ended up booking a one-night stay at the 4-star hotel called Golden Tulip, which is right close to the airport, and it has a complimentary shuttle. So that's exactly what we were looking for, and it was a super good deal. We ended up booking it on hotwire.com. So after this, I booked our Como stay, which was the place we kind of decided that we wanted to splurge on because it was a little bit more of a high-end bougie area, and it was only a one-night stay anyway. So we ended up booking a 4.97 stars Airbnb in Como, which was absolutely beautiful, and 4.97 stars to me is a 5-star rating. I don't care what everybody else says, but the pictures looked absolutely incredible. We were super excited to go visit this place, and the location was absolutely incredible. It was right downtown Como, close to all the shops and right close to the water. So another thing to look at when you are booking on Airbnb specifically is the superhost status. So the superhost status on the listing basically means that that host has achieved an incredible amount of amazing reviews. So this basically guarantees that your stay is going to be pretty incredible. So I then booked our stay in Florence, which we also ended up booking on Airbnb. We ended up finding a super cute, affordable, and authentic Italian apartment. It was on, I think, like the 4th floor. The little stairwells were all stone. It was super, super cute, and the location was incredible. So once again, you're going to always want to be looking at the location of the place you're booking, and there's actually a little area on most hotel websites and a lot of Airbnb profiles that basically lists off the attractions that are close to your location, and sometimes they even tell you how long of a walk they are from the place you're staying, which is super, super beneficial. This area on hotels and Airbnb also provides you with a list of the amenities. So for example, Airbnb will list off if there is a washer dryer, if there's a hair dryer, if there's Wi-Fi, which can be make or break for some people. So you always want to take a look at all this stuff to make sure that you have what you need. Next, I booked our place for Rome, which I also booked on Airbnb. Airbnb was on fire for this trip. The Airbnb in Rome was absolutely incredible. The pictures did not do it justice. We had a living room, a kitchen, a sunroom, and 2 bedrooms plus a bathroom. So it was super spacious, and it was so affordable, and it was so authentic, and we had a view of the Vatican. It was amazing. And finally, that includes the booking hotels, well, mostly Airbnb section of this video. The next and final step of this travel booking video is to basically plan your days for when you arrive there. Now, this is a little bit more of a difficult step as far as me telling you how to do that. And it's going to be done a little bit different than the past few steps. Now, I am a planner. I like to plan things. I like to know exactly what I'm gonna do at exactly what time, but believe me when I tell you that if you try to plan out every single day of your travels, where you're going, what you're visiting, at what time, and try to cram pack your days, not only are you not going to be able to experience the destination that you're going to properly, but you're probably just going to end up really disappointed by the end of the day, because trust me when I say nothing ever goes as planned when you're traveling. Between seeing things that you end up wanting to visit and not having enough time, the fact that you're gonna have to rush from location to location just kind of ruins the trip. At least that's, for most people and me, that is the case. And it will never, ever, ever go as you planned. No matter how much you plan it, it will never go as planned, I promise you that. And not only will it not go as planned, but you're gonna miss out on so many things that you might have discovered if you would have taken your time and just experienced the city. Also, there's no way I can tell you how to plan your day in a city because everybody has different interests. For me, I find museums horribly boring, and I would much rather experience walking through the streets and kind of spontaneously experiencing things and going and experiencing the food rather than going to a museum. But for some people, that is the place that they want to go first. So I can't tell you how to plan your days, but I can definitely give you a few pointers, so that's what I'm going to do. Number one is to make a list of the absolute must-sees in each city that you are going to. And then you can pick 1 to 2 of these places that are kind of close together. So you always want to choose 2 things that are a little bit closer in distance. That way you're not going from one end of the city to the other and wasting time. Just like in the beginning of this video, I said we were going to start in the northern part of Italy and head down to the south. You want to do the same thing in a city. Number 2 is something that I absolutely love to do, which is hop on, hop off bus. I do this in almost every city I visit, and it's such a good experience for the money you're paying. We always purchase a ticket for 1 to 2 days. There's usually a 24-hour or 48-hour ticket option, and basically what it is it takes you to every major attraction in the city on a bus. So what I like to do sometimes with this is I get a 2-day ticket. On the first day, I will just ride the bus through the whole entire route, and that way you can kind of see if there was something that wasn't on your list before that you want to add to your list of things to do. You're able to see everything, and then you can decide what you want to see up close. Number 3 is to always look into purchasing tickets ahead of time for attractions. This is something that I didn't do for the longest time, and honestly didn't even really do for Italy, which I wish I would have, because sometimes, first of all, tickets can be cheaper online. You can skip a line a lot of the time. I don't mean purchasing a skip the line ticket. I mean that sometimes there are 2 separate lines, one to buy tickets and then one to stand in line to actually see the attraction, which if you can buy a ticket online for the same price, why wouldn't you do that and skip the hour lineup that you have to wait in before you actually go to the attraction? My 4th piece of advice is to always check Airbnb experiences, which is basically an extra tab on Airbnb that has different experiences in that city. So anything from like a cheap walking tour to a cooking class in that city, and most of the time it's run by locals, so you get a really authentic experience. So here's my conclusion and summary of all of the prices that we paid for flights, hotels, I will also have my Italy video linked below. So if you are interested in that, then definitely check that below. It'll be linked below and probably also linked at the end of this video. I will also have all of the websites that I mentioned in this video. So Skyscanner, the flight website that I talked about, Travelocity, all of that stuff I will link below so that you guys can use it for future trips if you'd like. I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. I also hope that this video kind of helped you to think of what is to come, and maybe you can start planning your future travels. So I will see you guys in my next video. Like this video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe below, and have a super amazing day.